Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening and watching once again the Football Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Pipkin, joined as ever by my co-host, Tom Walker. And we've got an exciting show as ever lined up for you today. A little bit different. We're going to go through the Premier League as usual, the Championship as usual, and we've got the FA Cup first round to sink our teeth into as well. So exciting show ahead, Tom. Nice to have something a little bit different and talk about a few teams we don't usually talk about.
Yeah, researching South Shields, Chelmsford, Farnborough. It's been an interesting afternoon for me, I'll be honest. But yeah, we're going to focus on outsiders for the FA Cup section, just to have a bit of fun with it. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Obviously, you got the top two tiers of domestic league play to go through first, and no Saturday lunchtime kickoff. So no early kickoff curses.
Yeah. We are, as ever, sponsored by our friends at matchbook.com. You can bag yourself a £30 money back as a free bet offer using the sign-up code TFB podcast at the registration stage. But yeah, other than that, we're going to go through our treble at the end of the show as usual. We'll hammer Doncaster a bit for costing, we'll hammer Gillingham a bit for costing last week's treble. Gillingham got the curse last week, unfortunately. But apart from that, pretty much normal service. So we'll dive straight in to the Premier League, shall we, Tom? We've got 4 3:00 games to sink our teeth into, and it starts with Leeds against Bournemouth. 1.8 for Leeds, 4.0 for the draw, and 4.9 for Bournemouth. Any strong fancies for you in this one?
I mean, no. Strong fancy, no. But a little fancy, I think Leeds. I mean, the stats don't really back it up all too well, I'll be honest with you. Home record hasn't been great. Obviously, got that win over Liverpool. Fortunate goal to get themselves going. Of course, that's not going to happen every single week. But I feel like that might give them a little bit of momentum. I mean, the win over Chelsea was obviously followed by some poor form. So I'm hoping this time it's going to be followed by some decent form. I just think Bournemouth have fallen off, Tom. Obviously, Gary O'Neill got off to a good start, but it's been 3 defeats in a row and just 1 win in the last 6 now. Showed signs against Tottenham, maybe unlucky to lose that one, but realistically, I don't see too many signs from them, in all honesty.
Yeah, I agree. I'd back Leeds if I had to, but I think the price is a little bit short for them as well. You know, I know they got that good win last weekend, but not ready to trust them at that price just yet. We'll move on to Man City against Fulham then. 1.16 for City, understandably very short. 10.5 for the draw and 22.0 for Fulham. And it'll be a real surprise if anybody other than Man City won this fairly comfortably, I think. You know, City at home, we speak about it every time they're at home on the pod and how good their record is, how they score so many goals. It's been a long time since they scored less than 3 goals at home in the Premier League. If we just isolate this season's games, they scored 3 goals once, 4 goals 3 times, and 6 goals twice. So absolutely hammering whoever comes to the Etihad. I see no different for Fulham this weekend. And the thing is, people have clocked on now to the fact that Man City score so many goals and the prices have tanked as a result. What I'd be looking at is Man City in over 3.5, and that's still only 1.92.
That's insane.
So, yeah, then Man City in over 4.5, it does jump to 2.7. But yeah, that the 3.5 level is where I'd be most comfortable. But yeah, the price isn't fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, we got to give Fulham some credit this season. They've obviously started off really, really well, but they do have the 4th worst defence in the league. So yeah, it looks like they might be in a spot of bother. I can't find anything of value, to be honest with you, in this game, mate. Don't fancy Fulham to get anything, and everything City related is way too short for me.
Fair enough. Right, let's go to Forest against Brentford then. You Reds. 2.88 for Forest to win, 3.45 for the draw, and 2.7 for Brentford. Do you have any faith for us? Any hope at all come this
Well,
Saturday that we could get 3 points?
yes, I do. 3 points, not 100%, but I can't see us losing. I think a draw is probably nailed on for this, and obviously we don't usually tip draws. But we've got two teams here, both who have won one in their last six. Brentford obviously started off better this season than Forest have, but that draw against Wolves really sticks out. Obviously, they got absolutely battered by Villa. I think Forest are playing Brentford at a good time. Obviously, before that, the 0-0 with Chelsea, pretty much a nothing game, and a victory over Brighton is going back a little far, where Brentford were playing some of their better stuff. And I don't think the 5-0 for Forest needs reading into too much. I think the team and the club and the manager will never ever admit this. They're just not tuned that way. But I think they genuinely went to Arsenal to try and get a result. But I think in the back of their mind they know that the next two games for Forest, who is Brentford and then remind me, Tom, Palace.
Yeah.
So yeah, Brentford, then Palace in the league, sandwiched with that farcical Carabao Cup game against Tottenham. But yeah, I think they're eyeing those two before the World Cup break, of course. So yeah, I think this game is going to have a thorough game plan. I think Steve Cooper will have the boys right up for it. Taiwan Awani expected to start up front again. He's got one of the best XG conversion rates in the league, in the top 5. He's not the most technical, but he's always in the right spot. And Tom, you just informed me that a certain Brentford talisman is going to be missing this weekend.
Yeah, certainly will help Forest cause, won't it? Ivan Toney suspended after getting 5 yellow cards. So yeah, he'll be sitting out this one. So yeah, I certainly think we've got enough about us. So like you say, to get at least a draw, 1.56 is the price. I'm obviously biased. I'm definitely going to have a punt on Forest at 2.88 on the nose, because I do think, like you say, we've got Brentford at a good time. And the key thing for me is that we sweep last weekend's result under the rug and just carry on as we were prior to the Arsenal game, because we were looking solid, looking much improved. And last weekend, albeit against a very, very good side, felt like a couple of steps back. And I'm sure the City Ground crowd will be bang up for this, acting as the 12th man as ever. And yeah, can't wait to be there, be a part of it, and hopefully see us get 3 points. But certainly, Forest on a double chance is what we'd say for this particular game. Finally, then, for the 3 o'clocks, we've got Wolves against Brighton, 3.65 for Wolves, 3.5 for the draw, and 2.24 for Brighton. Now, Brighton obviously got a fantastic win against Chelsea last weekend, 4-1, wasn't it? 2.24 for them to win away at Wolves side, who are still struggling. I'm not like stick your mortgage on it, all in on it, anything like that. But if I had to pick between the two sides, I'd certainly pick Brighton after that Chelsea result. Wolves, I'm just not hot on whatsoever in any shape or form, especially whilst they're still in a kind of limbo stage, whilst they await a proper permanent manager in charge. Yeah, Brighton for me at 2.24, but it's not like a massively strong one.
I'm massive on it, to be honest with you.
Yeah?
I'm pretty big. Yeah, pretty big on Brighton. Weren't getting the results, of course, and that Chelsea result, as you said, Tom, has made people kind of sit up a little bit and go, oh, okay, so Brighton have arrived. I actually think Brighton arrived. I know I said a couple of weeks ago I felt like they dropped off in that Liverpool performance, but in the last few, particularly that Forest game, really unlucky in the last couple, just knocking at the door and the ball just not going in, to be honest with you. And I don't see anything wrong with the performances at all. I don't think it will be too long before Brighton are back at their kind of swashbuckling best. And I'll make a little prediction. I think they might score more under De Zerbi than they did Potter in the end. I'm not sure about the other end. Maybe they'll concede a few, but that's the Brighton side. And on the Wolves side, I just want to get against them. in every capacity. I don't care who they play against, what's going on. They are sleepwalking to the Championship. I think it was an absolute nightmare of a decision to not recruit a manager, and I think that's what happens when the agent who does all of your recruiting doesn't have, a client to push forward immediately. It means you don't have any plan for yourself, and it means that you end up, appointing the youth team coach to take over up until the World Cup. And yeah, I think it's absolutely farcical, and I want to get against them in every shape or form. So I am big on Brighton. 2-3-0 for me. 2.24. Yes, please.
Cool. And then finally, 5:30 on Saturday, we've got Everton against Leicester. 2.52 for Everton, 3.45 for the draw, and 3.15 for Leicester. I was looking at this one, and both teams have scored in 6 of the last 7 meetings between the two sides, so that could potentially be an angle that you might want to look down. But I find it quite hard to pick on the nose. If you put a gun to my head, I'd say Everton. Leicester, let's not forget, they have been very poor away from home in the Premier League this season, although, yes, they've been much improved recently, in the last kind of 3 or 4 matches. But yeah, aside from the most recent 4-0 win against Wolves, and you've just panned Wolves, they lost the five previous away games in the league, conceding at least 2 goals in every single game. So they're poor travellers. And as for Everton, they've had a decent enough home record so far this season. They've only lost 2 games at home out of 6. Those 2 losses were to Chelsea and Manchester United. So, a team in Everton's position and of their quality, I can forgive them a couple of losses to some of the better sides in the division. Everyone else they've at least drawn with, and that includes Liverpool, West Ham and Palace. So they've beaten and drawn with some decent teams so far this season at home. And let's not forget, their home form formed the backbone of their survival push towards the back end of last season as well. So if I had to go for any side here, it'd be Everton at 2.52. But again, it's not a massively strong one.
Yeah, I didn't know where to go. You're exactly right. I was going to batter Wolves again, actually, and mention that Leicester's only win has come against a hapless Wolves team. I mean, 9 of 13 of Leicester's games have gone over 2.5, and 9 of 13 of Everton's games have gone under 2.5. So it's hard to, differentiate who's going to win, who's going to, keep clean sheets, who's going to score goals. I just think this is a classic leave it alone.
Yeah, fair enough. Up next then on Sunday, we are started with Chelsea against Arsenal. Chelsea priced at 2.68, 3.55 for the draw, and 2.84 for Arsenal. How do you see this one going?
It's going to be good. That's the first thing I'll say. I think this will be good. Listen, I'm in love with Arsenal this season. I absolutely am. I am absolutely purring for them. I love watching them play. Like, I'm enjoying watching Arsenal more than Man City this season for sure. Maybe it's because I expect it from Man City. Maybe they're a victim of their own success. But the reason I want to back Arsenal over Chelsea is goals. Arsenal have scored almost double the amount of goals that Chelsea have scored this season. Yes, of course, Arsenal have had all season with Arteta, and Potter's just got started, but that's the fact of the matter. Chelsea scored 17 in the league. Arsenal scored 30. I just back Arsenal's firepower. 9 of the 12 games Arsenal played in, gone over 2.5, and most of those in the opposition's net. They've got so many threats. Jesus, Martinelli, Odegaard, Saka. Xhaka's even got 3 and 12. Reece Nelson came out of nowhere. I mean, he's not going to play against Chelsea here, but he came off the bench against Forest, scored 2. I kind of forgot he was even a thing. They just have so many threats. They got the best away record in the league as well. 13 points yielded from 6 games. And in terms of defence as well, 3rd best defence in the league. 11 conceded in 12. Bearing in mind, Newcastle, who are top, have conceded 10 in 13. So Arsenal not too far off that threshold. I just don't see why I'm ready to back Chelsea, who are still trying to identify themselves. And basically, they're trying to emulate what Arsenal have done, which is long-term vision, uh, to a point, recruitment with a strategic plan, with a manager who they believe in, given time to mount, whatever title challenge. We'll see if that happens, but certainly a top four finish looks nailed on now for Arsenal. And Chelsea are at the beginnings of that, and Arsenal way further along the line. So I'm going to have a little flutter on Arsenal, I think.
Yeah, it wouldn't entirely surprise me if Arsenal won. I like both teams to score as a more sure bet, if there is such a thing. 1.76 is the price for both teams to score. Chelsea at home in the league have played 5 games. They've only kept 1 clean sheet, and that was against, you probably guessed it, Wolves. Wolves really getting a bit of a pasting on the pod today, but
Yeah,
no surprise that
the
toothless Wolves.
Wolves fans have turned off 100%. They've gone.
I can't blame them. But yeah, against every other side they've faced at Stamford Bridge, they have conceded. I expect, like you say, Arsenal to score. But yeah, I think Chelsea will get on the score sheet themselves as well, because Arsenal haven't been fantastic away from home. They've been all right, but they've been far. Their Emirates form, for example, is far, far, far more convincing than their away form has been so far this season. I think it'll be a score draw personally, but I take your points about Arsenal, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did win.
Yeah, I'm on board with score draw as well. But yeah, just have a sneaky feeling that Arsenal are a lot better than Chelsea in their current guile.
Let's look at the next game then. So Villa against Manchester United, 3.7 for Villa, 3.7 as well for the draw, and 2.14 for Manchester United. Now, last week on the pod, I think I said that it was going to be Emery's first game. I was very wrong. It wasn't. This is apparently going to be his first game. So do you see any new manager bounce that he might bring to the table? Because Villa have been poor. They got panned again last weekend. And Manchester United have been very good.
Yeah, I fancy United for sure. Yeah, they've been really good. And again, kind of like the Arsenal comment, just a bit more watered down. Lots of goal threats. So really like that about United. So the one thing that with Villa, and this is obviously complete guesswork on my part, but I see Emery more as a one-off game kind of manager. I trust Emery to have a game plan for a two-legged semi-final, a one-off final. Maybe they've got to win a certain game to qualify for, I don't know, Europe, maybe in one of his previous. Do you know what I mean? Like, I see him as someone who has a great game plan for those big matches that are one-off chess games. So maybe his first game, he would have had a full week to prepare. He wants to get everything he wants to get everything off to a good start. He's used to being the small fish going up against the big fish. And when he's the big fish, aka Arsenal or PSG, it doesn't seem to work out as well. So maybe I could see Villa having a real game plan here and kind of sticking it to United. But saying all that, I think United will have too much. Maybe we'll see Unai pull off some tricks in the cup competitions. But I think he'll make it difficult. But United ultimately to get the 3 points.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if you can pick some teams on the nose, especially in those 2 games we've talked about, you definitely win some money.
Yeah.
Chelsea 2.66, Arsenal 2.84, Villa 3.7, Man U even at 2.14. So if you can pick a double that, out of the results from that, it'll be fairly tasty.
Quids in.
Yeah. Moving into Southampton against Newcastle then, 4.2 for Southampton for the win. 3.85 for the draw and 1.95 for Newcastle. Fairly short favourites, as you'd expect, considering their excellent form at the moment. And it would surprise me if they didn't get another win to continue their Champions League push in this particular game. No, they've played 5 games away from home Sorry, no, that's wrong. They've played 6 games so far in the league away from home. They've only lost 1, and that was very late on to Liverpool, 2-1. Other than that, pretty much very impressive. Put 4 past Fulham. Craven Cottages hasn't been the easiest place for teams to go this season. Beat Tottenham last weekend. Not last weekend. Beat Tottenham about, 10 days or so ago. 2-1 away, and we spoke about how good Tottenham's record at home was. Drew away at Old Trafford, and we spoke about how good Manchester United's home record is, and drew away at Brighton. Brighton started the season very well, let's not forget. So, yeah, considering that they've got some very solid away results so far this season, firing on all cylinders, full of confidence against the Saints side, who've got 1 win in their last 7 games in the league. I expect Newcastle to get another 3 points here and it to be fairly comfortable.
Yep. Nothing to add. Totally aligned.
Cool. Well, West Ham against Palace then is the last 2:00 game. 2.0 for West Ham, 3.6 for the draw, and 4.4 for Crystal Palace. And let's not focus on result here, Tom, because we've got some right stats for both teams to score.
Well, that's what I've got written down, so maybe I'll put myself on mute and just let you take it away.
But the thing is, the price for both teams to score is 1.96, so just a touch under evens. And this fixture has had 10 consecutive games both teams to score. You know I like my stats, and if I ever, when I'm doing my research, see historically 10 consecutive games, a thing has happened, you're damn straight I'm backing it again for an 11th consecutive game. We go with the wheel, you know. So 1.96, considering that there's been some damn entertaining games between these two sides in recent years, I thought was a really good price. It's been 16 consecutive games since Palace last kept a clean sheet against West Ham. 10 consecutive games since West Ham last kept a clean sheet against Crystal Palace. So, yeah, nothing else to say other than I think it'll be a both teams to score, and I love the price.
Yeah, I totally agree. Palace, again, so many goal threats. That seems to be my theme on this pod. 3 of the last 6, all both teams to score. And then in terms of West Ham, it's 3 out of the last 7 in all comps have been both teams to score. So the Palace and West Ham dynamic in the last few games, Tom, is 50-50. It's pretty much nailed on there. So, yeah, in terms of the historics, that backs it up. And it's something I had wrote down 100%.
Right. And finally, then, to round up the Premier League, we've got Tottenham against Liverpool, 3.35 for Spurs at home. They're the outsiders in this one. 3.8 for the draw and 2.24 for Liverpool. Anything that you like the look of here?
Yeah, Tottenham. Absolutely. Liverpool haven't
Big
won
price.
away from home in the league. 0. Played 5. This is Liverpool's away record. Played 5. Won 0. Drew 2. Lost 3. Scored 5. Conceded 8. So their away record is horrendous. They've got the 4th. Well, it's the joint worst away record in the league, but I'm kind of skewing it to suit my argument. They've played 2 games less. But in the current standings, these are the teams who have got a better away record than Liverpool. Brentford, Leicester, Palace, Leeds, West Ham, Bournemouth, Southampton, Everton, Fulham, Brighton, Newcastle, Man United, Chelsea, Tottenham, Man City and Arsenal. They are only better away from home in terms of games played, because remember, everyone's level on points, than Wolves, Villa and Forest. And there's a huge problem away from home. We saw it in the Champions League as well. I think that for Tottenham backers, that late goal at Marseille for Spurs is absolutely beautiful, because that just gives you that extra little step to go and back Tottenham, because they've not been great recently. Let's not pretend that Tottenham are through the weeds. You know, they could come crashing down here, but you know, back-to-back wins now. That Bournemouth game and the Marseille game, you really had to grind for both of those away from home, right? And I can just see this going one way if Liverpool continue to play the way that they've been playing. Now, the one thing I will say about Liverpool, Darwin Núñez, I'm still trying to work out how good he is, but I know one thing for sure: he's incredibly dangerous in so many ways. So he does scare me a little bit as a Tottenham backer, but yeah, I'm going for Spurs all day.
Yeah, it's a great price, isn't it, for Spurs on the nose? I I'm going to throw another market out there, which we very rarely use, and it's the half-time, full-time
Mm,
market. Um, I'm going to put out there at 8.0, half-time draw, full-time Tottenham win.
okay.
So the game to be a draw at half-time, and then Tottenham to be winning at full-time. Mainly because Spurs, in the most recent games at least, seem to be starting so slow. And it only seems to be in the second half when they actually come out and start to play well and then get the goals and then turn games around and get themselves back into things. So that's my thinking. Again, they may start a bit slower against the Liverpool side, who on their day could certainly come to Tottenham and win. But yeah, I think Tottenham may start slow again, get to half time. Conte will put a rocket up everybody again, and then they'll come out firing in the second half and score a couple of goals and win the game.
Well, I'll clip that up on social media when it comes in, mate.
Lovely stuff. Right, okay, that is the end of the Premier League. Let's just touch on our sponsors at Matchbook very briefly, and then we'll go into the Championship and the FA Cup first round.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are delighted to be partnered with Matchbook, a company who have been absolutely great to us, share the same kind of visions and share the same kind of principles that we do. It's a great match for us, and we're delighted to be able to bring you a sign up offer if you're a new account. So you can get a £30 money back as a free bet offer when you open an account. So let's say you want to back something a little fruit, maybe that Tottenham game. You want to back Tottenham, but you're a bit nervous. If you open an account with Matchbook and you then back Tottenham and they lose, instead of losing the money, you'll get that back as a free bet, and then you can reinvest that into something else that you fancy. So TFB podcast is the promo code you're going to need. So that's the football betting podcast, TFB podcast. So make sure you sign up today. Support the pod, support Matchbook, and bag yourself a little safety net for the weekend.
Yep, please do check that out. Let's go to the Championship then. And I don't know about you, but I found it a tough old week in the Champ. It's not
Yeah,
the most
yeah.
friendly league for betting at the moment. Couple of standouts though. I'm going to dive in quickly and get one in that I like the look of, and I know you like this one as well. Blackburn Rovers at home to Huddersfield Town. 1.82 is the price for Blackburn. This is second in the league. That's Blackburn. They're on 33 points, 5 points off Burnley, who are top. Huddersfield rock bottom at the moment. After 17 games played, they've got 15 points, adrift by 5 points at the moment. So, yeah, just Blackburn. I don't know. I feel like I don't really know as much as I should about Blackburn. I feel like I'm constantly waiting for them to drop down a little bit, but they keep churning out wins, especially at Ewood Park. They've won 5 of the last 5, so 5 consecutive wins at Ewood Park. Throughout the season altogether, they've played 9 at Ewood Park in the league. They've won 7, so won 7, lost 2 of their 9 home games. That's what's propelled them really up to second in the league. And at 1.82 to beat bottom of the league Huddersfield, I think it's a good price, and I could see them getting a 6th win in a row because Huddersfield struggling. They've not won a single game away from home all season long. They've conceded at least 2 goals in every game away from home, aside from one that was the most recent one against Middlesbrough. So, yeah, you got a Blackburn side scoring plenty of goals, winning plenty of games at home against Huddersfield, who really struggle at the moment on the road. So, yeah, Blackburn win for me here.
100%, 100%. Blackburn just a very all or nothing team, not a single draw this season, and yeah, I fully expect them to continue what I see as an unlikely charge towards the Premier League, but we will see what happens. Let's talk about Millwall, Tom. Price will be available on Matchbook nearer kickoff, but we do fancy them to get a win over Hull City. Now, Hull, Tom, I remember at the start of the season, there was a lot of excitement about Hull. And there tends to be a lot of excitement when a club signs a lot of players. But they're now down in 21st, so that's the final safety spot in the Championship, with the bottom 3 getting relegated, of course. And they're separated from Wigan with just a point. They're all over the place at the minute. They're still under Andy Dawson. There's rumours that Liam Rossini is going to come in. But as far as I know, Tom, that hasn't been announced right now. The pod's expected to go out on Thursday morning. So even if he's appointed Thursday morning, that gives him 2 days training, and then they're in against Millwall, who have one of the best home records in the entire league. They're actually in joint second right now. They're a point behind Burnley, but they've played a game less at home. So very feasible that we could be talking about the best home team in the entire league this season. And yeah, Hull just an absolute car crash at the moment. Worst defence in the league, Tom, by 7 goals. By 7 goals. So just to give you context, these are the gaps between everybody. So we got Preston on 15, Birmingham on 15, 16, 18, 18, 19, 19, 19, 20, 20. Then we've got 3 teams on 21, 2 teams on 23. Then we've got 4 teams on 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 35. So it's a huge, huge difference. That's the biggest difference position-wise in the entire Championship, is 23rd to 24th. They ship goals like you wouldn't believe. And, Millwall, a lot of good threats, of course, always from set pieces. Naturally, we all know that. But Zion Fleming got a bit of a long-range shooter to kind of take that burden from Jed Wallace, obviously, who left for West Brom. Really hot on Millwall. I think this will be a comfortable victory for them as Hull continue to search for the answers.
Yeah, and that leads into my only other thing I fancy, aside from the 2 we've read, in the Championship. That's Swansea at home to Wigan, because Wigan, another team, searching for answers, struggling, shocking form. They've lost 7 of the last 8 league games. And what I'd say is, even though they were losing prior to the last couple of games, at least they were kind of scoring a few goals here and there. Now the goals seems to have dried up as well, especially in the most recent games. So they're losing and not scoring now, which is not good at all. It's seen them slide down the league. They're in 22nd. And they go away to a Swansea side who, whilst they haven't been overall in the greatest of form recently, lost a couple of away matches, or not won a couple of away matches. They've won 4 in a row at the Liberty Stadium, scoring at least 2 goals in those last 4 games as well. So 3-0, 2-1, 3-2 and 2-0 are their most recent 4 results at home. They'll be very confident in making that a 5th win in a row against a Wigan side who aren't really threatening to get any wins at the moment whatsoever, really struggling for form. So at 1.91 for Swansea, I could see them getting another 3 points here. Very much similar to Blackburn against Huddersfield. You've got a very strong home side against a weak, struggling away side here.
Yeah, don't mean to shortchange Championship fans, but Tom, Swansea was the one I had left on my list. So it looks like we're done with the second tier after just 3 games, to be honest with you. So, time to have a bit of fun and change up the pod a little bit, which is nice, and move into the FA Cup first round. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, I've just got outsiders. So I'm going to get us kicked off with a bit of a bang. South Shields against Forest Green
Ooh.
Rovers. South Shields at home. We've got, so obviously I'm going to give everyone a bit of context where these teams are, because I'm completely aware that not everyone knows where everyone is in the world. So this is 5th in the Northern Premier Division. They are playing against Forest Green Rovers, who are 23rd in League One. South Shields, Tom, they've won the last 3 home games, and they've not lost in 10 at home. I think it's just prime. What we're looking for here with outsiders, we're looking for a favourite who's limping in the African plains. You know what I mean? And Forest Green are limping. They're winless in 5 away from home. They've got the 3rd worst away record in the entire league. They clearly don't fancy playing on the road. And in terms of the last 8 games in League One, they've been the worst team in the league. So South Shields licking their lips, right? They've got obviously the whole crowd all whipped up, the town's ready, and they can smell blood, because that's exactly what you want as an underdog. You don't want to be playing against a team that's won 6 in a row. Obviously, I know that's completely obvious, but you know what I mean? Especially in this underdog kind of spirit, it gives you that extra belief when you're playing against a team who, like I said, are just not fancying it away from home at the moment.
Yeah. I always think that there's a reason that these kind of games are picked for free-to-air television in the UK. So this one's on BBC One, so free-to-air. It's not on Sky Sports or anything like that. So, everybody can watch this game at 12 o'clock on Saturday. And I think it fits all that criteria, like you say. It's a team that's far down the pyramid, so it's interesting to feature them, but also people want to see an upset. This game, I believe, has been chosen, 1, because South Shields are far down the pyramid, but 2, because I feel like there's a big upset factor, and that's what people want to see. Like you say, Forest Green struggling, and South Shields could put it off at a big price. I like that one to get us kicked off with the upsets in the first round. Are we going to do Saturday and then move to Sunday, or are we jumping?
I have my upsets are not in any order at all.
Right.
So you do whatever you want.
Right, I'm gonna jump to Sunday, and we're gonna look at Woking at home to Oxford. Woking are
You're woking me, aren't you?
Yeah, Woking expected to be a big price this weekend. No, bigger price than South Shields if you go by what the general market price is. But yeah, they're a team who are doing pretty well in the National League. They're in 5th. They've got one of the best home records in the league. They've played 9 at home, have Woking. They've won 6 of them. So they've got a pretty decent record there. And Oxford, I don't really understand. I struggle with Oxford because 1 minute it feels like they're struggling and Carl Robinson is potentially on the verge of the sack. Then they get a decent win. Then they go back to struggling a little bit. Then they get another couple of decent results. So a bit all over the place, to be honest. And I think they're going away to a really solid National League side here. And at the price, I think there could definitely be an upset and Woking could cause a shock. Because there's 100%, 100 million% going to be some big upsets where we're going to see some of these lower league sides knock out Football League sides. And this, for me, has all the hallmarks of a tough game for Oxford.
Yeah, I don't normally back many singles on the weekend when I'm, spreading my bets around, but you can guarantee I'm going to be backing almost every single one of these in a single in some capacity. Yeah, I like it, Tom. AFC Fylde is my next one. And I kind of really want Fylde to win because they're playing against Gillingham, who cost a treble on the weekend. So, yeah, not very happy with them. Fylde 7th in the National League North. Gillingham 20th in League 2. Gillingham 2 points above the bottom of the league. They are 2 points away from being the worst team in the EFL. Talk about limping gazelles in the African plains. That Gillingham are absolutely prime. Fylde, have not lost in the last 8 at home. Gills have not won in 4, and Gills haven't won any of their last 8 away games. Now, one of the stats, Tom, which is going to make our both teams to score tip last week look horrendous, but that's not why we picked it, of course. It was because of Doncaster's horrendous clean sheet record. But Gillingham are the lowest scorers in the EFL. They have scored, and I'm not joking, they've scored 6 goals in 16 matches. 6. It's
bad.
I mean, the next worst team has 12, which, we've all done junior school math, which is double. It's insane. And their XG and all that kind of stuff and their patterns of play, and, they're not getting unlucky. They're not hitting the woodwork 15 times. They just can't attack. Over the last 8 games, Gillingham have got the second worst record in League 2 as well. This is also absolutely prime.
Yeah, I like the sound of that one. My next one, again, Sunday, Torquay at home to Derby. I'm not going to tip Torquay out for the win here. They're bottom of the National League. They're really struggling, to be fair. Derby will probably win this game, but I do think it will be both teams to score. And it's always nice when you can get both teams to score, and it's a nice bit of a bigger price because we're used to both teams to score, of course, being under evens, but expect this one to be kind of around the 2.2, 2.3 range. Torquay, and it's mainly the Torquay factor in this because they've had some crackingly entertaining games recently. So just their last 4 games, they've had a 1-0, but they have had a 4-4, a 4-0, and a 6-1. So they're conceding goals, but they're also scoring plenty because they lost 4-0 to Notts County. Then the next week they win 6-1 against Aldershot. So yes, they're bottom of the National League, but the goals are flying in at both ends usually in Torquay matches. And I expect them definitely to lose to Derby this weekend. But it seems like, and I obviously don't know an awful lot about Torquay, but it seems like they are capable of hitting the back of the net. And they'll be high on confidence after scoring 6 last weekend, I'm sure.
Yeah. Derby not exactly flying at the moment, are they? They're kind of limping under Paul Warne a bit as they try and figure out what's going on there. So, yeah. I tell you what, Tom, I had to research this one hard because it's not got an EFL team in it. We've got Barnet against Chelmsford. So we got 10th in the National League in Barnet against 4th in the National League South. So obviously Chelmsford looking to get promoted to Barnet's division. Barnet have got the worst defence in the league. I don't know how often it is a team in 10th has the worst defence in the league, but they do. They've conceded 38 goals this season in 17 games. Clearly, huge issues at the back. And Chelmsford, they've won 4 of their last 5, and they're unbeaten away all season. So, an unbeaten team all season away from home, absolutely no fear against a defence that is prime for shipping goals. It's not the strongest one, but I will be having a little flutter on Chelmsford because, I mean, those two together make a nice little recipe, I reckon.
Yep. I like the sound of that one as well. We've got some good tips, I think, in this section. I'm liking
I love
this.
It's
this
so
is why
good.
I feel like these FA Cup early round pods are some of my favourite pods of the year because
Mm.
one, we're picking out all the outsiders and we get to feature a lot of teams that we don't usually talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. I'm going to go for an all League Two affair for my next one. And it's Stockport against Swindon. And I saw the price for Swindon to win and I thought I have to read it out. Do I think Swindon will beat Stockport this weekend? They've got a chance. They've got more of a chance, I believe, than the odds say they have. Um, you know, Swindon are over 4-1 to win this game. You know, I see these two sides as much more equals than that suggests. Swindon have got a draw away at Stockport already this season. They scored 5 away at Mansfield last weekend in League Two. Prior to that, they drew away at Bradford. So they're going away to some decent sides in League Two and getting wins, never mind just draws. So, yeah, considering Swindon 5th in League Two, Stockport 14th in League Two, yes, Stockport's form has picked up recently. They're not conceding too many goals. I just think Swindon have got a good chance of winning this game. Far better than 4-1 suggests.
Would this be 4-1 if it was a league game? I don't understand.
Absolutely not. Surely not.
Yeah, I don't understand. It
Yeah.
feels like a trap, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a look at that, Tom, and I didn't really understand it. So I didn't read it out. But I'm glad that you did some digging and had a look at it because, yeah, just didn't make sense to me. I'm going to look, Tom, at Sutton against Farnborough. So 17th in League Two against 17th in the National League South. This is all on Sutton. This is all on Sutton. They are in a tailspin. They are probably limping the most, I would say, out of every single one of these gazelles that I've read out. I think these have got the biggest limp. They're the worst team in League Two over the last 8 games. So remember, I spoke about how bad Gillingham were. Obviously, Colchester and Hartlepool really struggling. Rochdale have been bad. Harrogate have been bad. None of them have been as bad as Sutton over the last 8 games. And Farnborough, they've not lost in the last 6 or any of the last 5 away. So there is a little bit of form there. I just think, that's all you need is just, haven't lost in any of the last 5 away from home against, a team who, in their last 8 games have been the worst out of 24 other teams with just 5 points yielded. I think that's all you need when you're an underdog, just that little chink of hope. So yeah, I'll be back in Farnborough as well.
Cool. I like it. No more really from me. Have you got anything else you want to share? Or
No. I'm just really looking forward to it, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, completely agree.
Right.
Right. In that case, let's do the treble from last weekend and bring you this week's treble.
Yeah, just hit the post again, didn't we? I feel like we are Brighton. I feel like the patterns of play, the thought process is absolutely unbelievable. It's just not going in the back of the net at the moment because we got Danny Welbeck up front. So I feel like eventually it's going to drop and we're going to hit 6 and 7 trebles in a row. But until then, we're going to be blaming Gillingham, who let us down here. We had both teams to score treble. Coventry, Blackpool 2-1. Wimbledon, Harrogate, that was comfortable, 3-2. And then Donny, Gillingham. Donny, no clean sheet in, what did you say, Tom, 16?
I think, 16 consecutive games without a clean sheet for Doncaster across all competitions. I think I read out. Yeah.
And Gillingham just couldn't get it done. They lost 1-0, and I'm glad they lost 1-0.
Hope they go down.
Yeah, I do too. They actually deserve it, but that's a conversation for another time.
So for this week's treble, we are going to go for the following three things. So we're going to go for Blackburn to beat Huddersfield, Swansea to beat Wigan, and Forest on the double chance. So either Forest win or draw against Brentford. And that pays 4.92 for those three results.
That'd be lovely, that. So, yeah, as ever, this is just a little bit of fun, what me and Tom fancy. Hopefully you guys can come up with your own bets, and maybe you want to use some of our tips. But, yeah, please also be responsible for your own bets. Tom, shall we navigate over to fancy football briefly? If we have to.
Let's have a look. Green arrows, mate. Green arrows this week, which was nice. A very rare change.
Yeah, it was lovely. Honestly, I went up in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of my 8 leagues that I'm in, and obviously that includes the football betting podcast league. So I was happy with that.
Yeah. I went up to the dizzy heights of 220th in the podcast league.
Ooh, I'm 267th. So
we're gonna get those leads.
How many people are in the league now? I'm scrolling and it just keeps going. 318. So
nice.
Just for context, we are bad, but there are worse.
We'll have a run down the top 10, shall we? We do have a new leader. Spoiler alert. Danny Whiteman in 10th, then Pat Ravenhall, David Arias, Neil McCloy, Phil Basley, Andrew Burley, Sammy Walton, Michael Tomlinson, Dan Pinsker, the long-time leader, is now in second, and 1 point ahead, Daniel O'Reilly with McSauce's Army. So, shaking up a bit at the top.
Yes. It's been a while since we've had Dan off the top, so it's just 1 point that separates Dan and Dan. So we got a bit of a title race on our hands. You can still join our fancy league if you'd like to. You can get at us on Twitter for the league code. So our Twitter handle is T_FB podcast. Join in on midweek Twitter tips, general weekend discussion around bets, stats, insight. There's a whole host of stuff on there, and it's a great time to follow because the World Cup is coming up and we've got some stuff bubbling in the background.
Yeah. And if you enjoyed the show, guys, please give us a rating or review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And like Tom says, get in touch on social media. Send us in any bets that you've got on for the weekend and any winners that you get come 5 p.m. on Saturday. And fingers crossed that the curse breaks this weekend. But yeah, other than that, thank you for listening. We'll be back same time next week and see you then.